Hi, everyone. I'm excited to get to do this webinar for you today. This is the first in a series of 4 webinars that I'm doing for the month of May. We've been working at ShoWorks Auction to put in place some very good things that simplify the ability for you to engage your buyers online, either through add-ons only or buyer registration. I wanted to take the time to do a series focused on the how to best use the system, put the information out there, have it available as training for the future so that you could utilize it as you prepare for your shows, whenever they might be. Seeing lots of familiar names. I'm excited to see all of you here. What I'm going to ask y'all to do, some of you have already done this before, but feel free. I've got a QR code that you should be able to see and scan. Feel free to scan that with your phone if you have it available and you're not using your phone for the Zoom, or you might be able to do both. Go ahead and register as a buyer. When you've registered as a buyer, you're going to get a text if you put in your mobile number. When you receive that text, you can click on the link to dive straight into the auction. That is our demo auction, and click around, do an add-on, and then you can review your cart. I just want y'all to go through the motions and see what you can see. I'm going to have, I've got great help today. I've got Kaylee and Kimberly assisting with the webinar today. Kaylee will be manning the chat. And then Kaylee will be helping me with the Q&A. You're welcome to throw questions in there. I have quite a bit to cover, so I am going to make it all the way through my presentation before I answer questions along the way, but they'll dive in and help with questions as they're able to assist with those. But I will make sure there's time at the end. Even if I have to go beyond, I will send out the recording to everybody who is in attendance, or even those that registered. So in the meantime, Kaylee's gonna throw the link into the chat as well, that this will take you from this QR code to get into our demo site. Go ahead and register as you're able to. And then I'm going to just proceed forward. I'm going to move forward today as quickly as possible to make sure I can get through everything. We just had a little bit pulled together testimonials. Some of you might see yourselves in here. I'm just going to play it for y'all.
It was very successful. It was fun. Brought different people in.
My biggest single piece of advice to any fair is to do it.
One of the most successful auctions.
And that's one way to cut it. So sorry. I thought I was raising the volume. If you want to know what I really thought I was doing. Oh, goodness.
Our auction was very successful. It was fun. Brought different people in.
My biggest single piece of advice to any fair is to do it.
One of the most successful auctions that we had ever had. It was a great experience.
It was very positive.
It was incredible.
It was streamlined. It was easy. It's simple. Very easy to implement. You just have to push a button.
The day of the actual event was as seamless and smooth as it could be.
Really easy.
The management of the buyers was very simple. It's all simple. Just type in a buyer's number or name, and yes, you can manage whatever you want to know. What animals did they purchase? How much did they purchase them for?
They made it all work and it went through flawlessly.
Our sales were up about 30%. We had an average of $100 more per animal.
Our prices were much higher this year.
Our add-ons were phenomenal, at close to 60% in our sales.
We had $50,000 more in add-ons.
Working with the auction online support team was phenomenal from the beginning to the end. They did their job very proficiently.
The customer service is amazing.
I would promote this. I will back this product.
ShoWorks is highly recommended.
We would definitely consider using them in the future.
When we started back in 2020, we definitely started as a response to the COVID situation. However, one of the things we wanted to do is work collaboratively with the ShoWorks software to assist with maximizing fundraising for your exhibitors and minimizing the labor for the fair staff. So many years, people have been asking for add-ons to be online, and this was the window of opportunity that we seized. We have a ton of resources to help you get there. We have our playbooks, knowledge base. We have communication that you can use as examples for your buyers, including videos of how to sign in. We have templates of how to equip your exhibitors. We have signage templates, email templates. We have the ability for you to utilize AuctionCast, which you'll see here in a bit. And then just the fact that we're integrated, an integrated cloud system with ShoWorks 2020 eliminates so much labor for your fair staff. And our goal is to show you how that is intended to work so that you can figure out how to apply it. I am going to talk specifically today about add-ons online. Some communities have always done add-ons, some it is brand new to them. Regardless of whether you've done add-ons in the past or before, or just starting, moving add-ons online results in a 10 to 20% more earned for each exhibitor. That every time I think that statistic can't hold true, fair after fair, we're seeing that return, fairs coming back to us and letting us know. And then we are sitting here looking at, through COVID and then beyond, it's just holding true. The reason for that is exhibitors are able to self-promote. They can self-promote to their families and friends by sharing their own URL. Buyers are able to enter their own add-ons with the option to pay online. So they are taking it into their own hands and doing it at their own timing of when they can get things processed and put into the system. Add-on transactions and payments are directly synced with ShoWorks client for final reporting and billing, which extremely helps in those add-on situations where you have a ton of $25 here and there, and you might have 100, you might have 1,000, you might have 3,000 for your fair, and typically those have been hand entered along with the payment, hand entered by staff or volunteers, and putting this into the hands of the buyers allows for those transactions to sync directly with ShoWorks 2020. Because you've enabled add-ons online, you have the ability to open online buyer pre-registration. You also have the ability to have live buyer registration at the time of your live sale. Just because you are utilizing add-ons online means that you have access to the software to be able to put up a QR code, just like I did at the beginning of this. Stick it up in your buyer registration and have people register themselves from their own devices or from iPads or computers that you might have on hand. A lot of times I see that fairs will engage 4-H members to stand there with an iPad and assist those individuals that might need an assist on doing the buyer registration themselves, but it allows for there to not be that bottleneck at that buyer registration table. Buyers directly at the time that they are input into the online site, you have the ability to sync that directly into your ShoWorks client. So you have your complete buyer list sitting in ShoWorks. Nobody needed to enter a buyer into ShoWorks because it was done online and pulled directly over. Also with add-ons online, fairs are making additional monies or covering the costs of having transactions online by using sponsorship opportunities on the online site, leaving the online site open longer beyond the extent of the fair so that other people can come and traffic will come. And then on that site, anyone who contributes through it is getting that recognition. They're getting, you have the ability to show the totals of add-ons. Also, by having this online, it's consistent that 20% of the individuals that are going to visit your site are typically from outside of your community. Some people will say, I think my community is too small in order to do add-ons online. Coming from a small community that I lived in for a decade, one of the things that we strive to do is give opportunity to outside monies to come into our community, because a lot of our locals, they had their budgets and they were tapped out. But if we ever wanted to see more money going to those exhibitors, giving them the opportunity to reach outside of that community to gather those funds really does help. And this is one way to do that. Prerequisites for running online auction or the auction site is your computer must be running at least Microsoft Office 2013. I know quite a few people will pick up a fair computer once a year, but that's one thing to look at. Make sure you're running Microsoft Office 2013 or above. ShoWorks 2020 is required, and there was a release in January of 2021, version 20.4.0 that needs to be run. It's very obvious when you go to hit the provision auction button. If it is not there, you're not running the current version. If it is there, you're running the current version, but you can always go to the help about to see what version you are running. The other requirement is that if an entry is intended to appear on the online site, it does have to originate through online entries. So you do have to go through that process of having those exhibitors enter those entries online. You have the option of implementing it with FairVault. I'll show you how it can be built out, but for add-ons only, you do have to have that original online entry. I'm going to walk through add-ons online, focusing on a couple of different things. One is the very basic minimum requirements. What is required to be able to get my add-ons online? What is the very basic? I'm going to walk through that first. I'm going to go detail by detail of the quickest way to get there. And then I'm going to walk through the options for implementation of how fairs are utilizing the site even beyond what the minimum requirements are. All of you just walked through this. If you accessed our demo site, what you did is you registered as a buyer, you received a security code, and you also received a one-tap sign-in in order to be able to access the auction site. This is common for any buyer who registers himself over the course of the in the site. And then you can go in, you can click add-on, and you can place an add-on. In this case, you're seeing a minimum of $100. The system does default to a minimum of $50. If you would like for it to be different, I'll show you where you can adjust that minimum in the settings after you start getting set up. I've narrowed it down to 7 quick steps to implement. 7 might seem like a lot. However, if you do these things, it's going to just make sense. It's going to just flow through. The reality is you're manning an entire show, taking in the entries, you're building out a sale, you're provisioning to an auction site, you need to configure that site. I'm going to show you how to do that. Kaylee just threw into the chat the add-on configuration. Right here, it is a knowledge base article. This is the quickest and best reference for add-ons only of how to get set up. It's going to walk you through the steps that I am about to show you now. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to update your email address. 2 weeks ago, this was not a thing, and it is today, and it will continue through the into the future. We now have the ability at the point that you provision, you are going to be able to receive email notifications systematically, letting you know the status of your provisions and where, if there's any errors or warnings of what you might need to fix. So it is very, very important that whomever is going to be the person to receive those emails is the correct email in records and under setup and online, and the reply email address here. That's the email address that is being used. The next step assumes that you have already gathered all of your entries. At the point that you've received your entries, if you know that online, oops, let me pause that. If you know that online, you're only going to do add-ons, I'm going to show you a quick way, and don't worry, I have this video to send out, and we'll send out the reference because this is going to go quite quickly. I'm going to show you a quick way to bulk update all of your entries that are going to go online, assuming every single entry that you take online is going to be an add-on only lot. I'm going to show you how to assign what's the UD entry list 10 field. Some of you are familiar with user-defined fields, some of you may not be, but there is a plethora of user-defined fields within ShoWorks, and the auction site uses the UD entry list 10 field in order to tell the auction site how to treat this entry. So this is a quick video. It has a little music, but I'm going to talk over it. You go into the report manager and you're going to click on queries. When you click on queries, you go to run SQL statement. There is a statement. Let me pause right there because I know it's going to go too fast. There's a statement that exists and it's highlighted in yellow in the add-on only configuration document. And it says update entries set UD entry list 10 equals add-on only lot. This is going to take all of your entries and it is going to set them to have that add-on only lot configuration setting for the online site. Let's say you have an entry or two that isn't going to ever, or a couple of divisions that aren't going to go onto the online site. That's okay. You can still set them as this because the only way this field is being utilized is if it ends up over there. That's the configuration it's going to take. Running this update is going to get that configuration that you want. This shows how you're going to save the SQL as a custom query, so you only have to do this once. And then later you could reference the same query if you needed to go add a few more entries, or you had another division close out online entries and you want to update them as online entries. You can save that. It's going to ask you, are you sure you want to have this saved? You're about to update all of these rows and you're going to progress through that and then close it. That right there gets you through how to set them up. The next thing that is done, well, this isn't actually necessarily the way it has to be done, but I'm going to show a little bit of a tip in quick entries of how I go through and set up a report or a quick entries view so that it can be utilized for auction purposes. There are certain fields that drive quick entries or drive the auction site. And if you go into quick entries, you can memorize a specific setup that you can keep and access it later to show all of those fields. You can see here that I've added UD entry list 10, place, I'm probably going to add sale order. It could be a number of things that you might want to show on the auction site, including sponsor here. Special placing shows up on the auction site. And I'm probably going to add one more, UD entry list 9, which ultimately covers which auction it's going to go to online if you have more than one auction. Ahead of time, before you even start your sale order, you can create a quick entries, memorize the view so that you can have it to see later. when you're looking through this, you can see where it says add-on only lot all the way down. That is verification that we just bulk updated every lot as add-on only lot. In a field like this, you can also see the placing and you can see the sale order. This is a convenient way if you're manually updating to manually update any placings, any sale orders, manually update sponsors, special placings. It's just a very useful tool if you're not already using it. I'm going to jump over to the next steps for bare minimum of setting up your add-ons only. One is creating the sale. You have a number of ways to be able to create a sale. The best recommendations that I have for you is to go into the help ShoWorks handbook, and it will talk to you about how to create a sale. There's also a method, a help article on fairsoftware.com that I think Kaylee will drop into the chat, but it will walk you through how to create a sale as well. What that entails, if you are in ShoWorks itself, is you're going to, I skipped creating a sale order. I'm so sorry. So there's the steps in the handbook as well as an article regarding set sale order. Some of you know and use the set sale order, which will walk you through a series of questions that will order your divisions and your items that are to be sold numerically based on some preferences that you have. Others will use the quick entries for setting a sale order manually. Once you have set your sale order, then you will go through the efforts to click create sale. What it is doing when you create sale is it is taking those entries that you've had and you've already identified what order you'd like for them to appear in the sale, and you're going to create the sale, and it's going to create the sales invoices. Once you've created the sales invoices, they're going to appear here in ShoWorks under sale and sale. You're going to see all of them ordered, and this is what you utilize after you've created your invoices. Many of you typically print your sales invoices after they have been created so that you can utilize them in your live sale. This is also your official sale order of your lots, and the invoice number is the equivalent of your lot number. Some of you handle sale order a little bit differently. Some of you have 1 through 10 or 1 through 50 for your swine, 1 through 50 for your cattle. So sale order doesn't always match the lot number itself, but a lot of times you do actually match your sale order and your invoice number. One of the things that is important to do before you push anything to the auction is to go through and review your invoice numbers and make sure they are the numbers that you want to appear online. In this case, you can see that I'm actually a little mismatched. I can see my invoice number is 1,000 and my sale order is 1. I probably at some point did that intentionally, but in reality, I want them to match. I want my invoice numbers to be 1 through 25 or however long it goes. So I'm going to go to my tools and I'm going to renumber my records, and I'm going to choose to renumber my sales invoices based on what my sale order is, starting with the number 1. When I do this, it's going to ask me, are you sure you want to do this? I'm going to say yes. It's going to reorder everything. I'm going to exit out of it and close out of it. And then you can see it updating how everything, all my invoice numbers got updated. Now that I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, now I know that this is the order I want things to appear online. This is the orders that they can show up online. I'm really good to go. The next thing I want to review before I press the provision button is actually going to be my buyers. I'm going to go over to my main menu. I'm going to go over to my buyers, sale to buyers, and I'm going to look and see. I'm actually curious. Oh, I've got some new buyers since I last looked at this. Some of you might recognize your name. We've got Miami-Dade County Fair represented, LNG Goods Merchandise is represented, GHR, Aaron's here, Ellis County, Taylor, Vanessa, Rockin' K. This is awesome. So what has happened, y'all registered and it showed up in my buyer list. Before I go provision anything, I do want to look at my buyer list and make sure it's what buyers I want to send over to the auction site. We do a lot to try and make sure that we keep the integrity of the buyer list. When you are creating your fair file each year, you have the option to carry over your buyers from the previous year or start fresh. Everybody has their own method of doing it. So really, however you choose to do it is fine. Whatever you put and start with in your buyer list at the time that you first provision, it's going to go over to the auction site. So you want to take a look at that and make sure that you're good to go with what you're seeing. That's what you want to appear in the auction site. One thing to note is the auction site does utilize the mobile number for getting that code back for the buyer. So if you are unsure, if you have the majority of your buyers, you don't know if you have their mobile number, you may choose to have them go ahead and resubmit or re-register. That's completely up to you. Once you've reviewed your sale and reviewed your buyers, that's the data that is going to go over to the auction site. You're going to hop into the cloud and you're going to click provision auction. What it's asking for here is your server username and password that is used for online entries. Some of you shut down your online entry sites immediately after you stop taking entries. However, if you have designated a disable date that is prior to your sale, you'll want to go forth and extend it. You just send a note into the fairsoftware.com support channels and let them know that you actually want your disable date to be out beyond the time that you're going to be interacting with ShoWorks, the auction site online. So once you have that extended, you will have the ability to go ahead and server, enter your username, enter your password. You can remember that information for the future, so you don't have to enter that every time, and you'll click the provision button. When you click that provision button, a couple of things are now going to happen. You're going to get a note that says that this is finished, it's done. What that means is that the data has been pushed over to the auction, and we actually have, let me get back to my presentation. This is when you're going to start receiving emails. One action item that I have for everybody that is attending today or watching this training is go ahead and add support at showworkscloud.com as one of your approved contacts in your email system. Because you're going to start getting emails, and I'll be honest, just as that process gets started, I have seen people get them in their promotions folder, their spam folder, their main folder, or it could go to all three for all we know. So go ahead and add support at showworkscloud.com into your contacts. That way you can get the emails. The emails you're going to receive upon the time that you get your first provision done. You're going to get this email that says, welcome to ShoWorks Auction. Thanks for signing up. Please confirm your account. It's going to give you access to your auction admin site. You're going to have an initial password, and you're going to want to reset that password immediately. If you have any questions, you're going to let us know. The next email you're going to get is every time you hit that provision button, you are going to get an email that says your provision is currently processing. You should expect to receive an additional email with further instructions within the next 10 minutes. We put 10 minutes on there, but it really should be within 1 to 2. Try to give ourselves a little wiggle room in case there's something with the mail servers. But if you don't get a next email, you need to contact support. The next email, don't get frightened. It is very, very helpful. We'll be tweaking the look and feel of it as deliverability increases, but you're going to get an email that's with the subject of ShoWorks auction provision, and it's going to have the date and time up here. You'll see that was successfully processed. When that provision is processed, you're going to have 2 sections to that email that tells you what's to do next. I actually intentionally created this one with a lot of warnings in it, just to give you an example of what it looks like. You'll have a section that says the following items were identified and need addressing. Some things that could go wrong or be warnings is your file had at least one buyer with an ID number taken by someone else in the auction site. The following were automatically changed by the system in order to avoid collisions. So this means your buyer still went over to the auction site, but you're going to want to fix this. You're going to fix it underneath each warning. It has to fix, find the buyers whose numbers were modified in your ShoWorks client file, change the buyer ID to the next available number in the auction site, and re-provision. In this case, I had quite a few. I was really laying some test data on top of itself, so that's why there's so many. The next error that you're seeing is the following lots did not provision because they did not have a valid invoice number. It shows to fix, modify the invoice numbers in your ShoWorks client file to the next available whole number and re-provision. The next one, it indicates which buyers did not provision because their names were already taken by another buyer. You'll see as it comes to buyers, the numbers themselves aren't the unique identifier. It's actually the names. So if you can't have 2 resales, you can't have the butcher shop twice. If someone wanted to register again as that name, they're probably going to put a $sign or a period after it, or number 2 after it. But if you're intending for those buyers to show up, you'll have a little bit of reconciliation to do. These are all of the random issues that we see, but the one we do see the most of isn't even on here, and it is the following lots did not provision because they did not have a win ID. If they do not have a win ID, that means that they did not originate from online entries. And if they did not originate from online entries, they're not going to show up in the online site. In order to fix that, you have to go all the way back and add them in online entries and insert and replace the previous entry with that new entry. The steps to fix that, if you run into that error, will appear in the to fix. I'm showing this email, which is a very hefty email, in 2 parts. The second part you'll see here is that you're going to get a section that says the URL for your buyers. You're going to be able to view your auction at auction.showorks.cloud/fair/your-fair. Ours says Vendu, or my example says Vendu. It'll also tell you where to log into the admin site, and you've already received that verify your email previously, so you should already have it, but it's going to tell you where to go again. You're going to get instructions letting you know that if the chat with us button is available, just say hi to us. If it is on, we're on, and we're happy to help. It also lets us know that you're active in the site, and we'll look for questions, or we'll inspect your site as we see anything to look for anything that might be going well, or may need to be tweaked. And then you'll see the key areas to inspect. This is an indicator of what to look at, your fair setup, your auctions, images and videos. I'm about to walk through quite a bit of this as how you configure your auction. I'm gonna have, I think she might have already thrown it into the chat, but I'm gonna have Kaylee add it one more time. We've created a checklist for the add-ons configuration. It will be a part of our communications that gets sent to you, like, hey, have you looked at your checklist? Check your checklist. We've created a checklist that is to be used by you. There it goes, it just hit the chat. So that as you're walking through the process, you can say, yep, I've done this, I've done that, I'm on track. It'll show what things are optional. It'll show what things you do have to do in order to ensure success. But it's something that you can save your progress on. We can't see it, it's for you. So it walks through all of this right here. Configuring the auction admin. I'm doing quite a bit via the slides and screenshots. I will jump over to the live admin site here in a bit, but actually I will do it right now. I was doing that just for the sake of time. When I'm doing things live, sometimes I get off on a tangent, so I needed to do two things: be able to show you all everything I wanted to be able to show you, but also keep moving, keep me focused. So I'm going to pull up the admin site, potentially. There we go. And in the admin site, you're going to see a couple of things. One, I'm going to start here. It has provision history. This also contains warnings in here that would have been emailed to you. So this just gives an idea that how many buyers were added, how many entries were added, and any warnings that might have been received upon that provision at that specific date and time. I always like to look there first. The next thing is you have your fair options. This is the fair name that appears at the top. If I were to change it, then it's going to change the buyer site of what appears. It's going to default based on your fair name that is registered with your ShoWorks license. So if you want something different there, I'll tell you, every time you provision, you do have to change it back to something different you might want. The registration notes appear on the online site. They appear, I'm going to show you exactly where they appear. On the registration, they appear here so that you can put a note to anyone who's registering. It may be, if you're having trouble, contact us, that sort of thing. Terms and conditions, this is where you enter it. And then if you have a registration question that you want to ask, this is a user-defined registration question that you can put in. On the specific auctions themselves, if you only have one auction, then you're only going to see one line item here where I selected. In my demo site, I actually have multiple auctions, and you can utilize them in a bunch of different ways, but I'm going to just focus on one for right now. I'm going to activate my site. You want to activate. When it comes to add-ons, you want to go ahead and allow for online add-ons to take place. You can name your auction. You want to have the open time of your auction and the close time. And I say auction, this is the open time of your online site for the receipt of add-ons, and then the final close time. This does a couple of things. It enables and disables that add-on button if this is checked, as well as it communicates back to our team just when y'all are expected to roll off, so we can just kind of monitor things along the way. And then I'm going to scroll down a little bit, and you're going to see this add-on minimum and increment. This is where you can change that minimum add-on amount that can get placed. And scrolling down even further, all the way at the bottom, you can say display add-on totals or yes or no, or in display add-on contributors, yes or no. When I pop over to the auction site itself and I go into a lot, you can see the add-on total that is right here. And when you click on it, then I can also see the add-on contributors. That is strictly because I have those settings enabled. We've learned that every community is different. Some want to highlight their contributors, some don't. Some want to highlight the totals, some don't. So that's completely up to y'all. I'm going to cancel that. The next thing I'm just going to look at real quickly is under auction entries. You can see when I scroll over to the far right, when I am under my add-on sale, remember I have multiple sales taking place, then you're going to see add-on only lot set for those lot types because that's what I have set. So let me jump back to my other. That is the setup and what is required. And I'm going to move on to the next slide. Here's where we have run auction monitor. For those that are not aware, our 2022 development team has put in place what is called auction monitor. It's going to be a part of ShoWorks agent that that is going to be widely adopted, that allows for the cloud, anything done online, to be able to communicate more real time with the ShoWorks, with ShoWorks 2020. It is a very exciting technological advancement for ShoWorks, and we're excited to be the first to bring it to you. What happens is there's a one-time install with our ShoWorks support team, auction support team. Eventually it's going to be where it self-installs. Today we install it with you, and it'll be just around the corner where it's going to install itself. But we're getting there. What it involves is installing what's called Auction Monitor and opening up an Auction Monitor application. It's a little boring. This will sit in a little tray, but this is what it looks like when it's hanging out on my computer. I'm showing that in the case that you do see that and you're not used to seeing messages like this on your computer. This is normal, it looks good, and it just runs in the background. Because that was running, that is why I was able to open my ShoWorks. And when I hopped into my buyers, and at any point I could hit refresh on my buyers, I'm able to see all of you that showed up and registered in that demo site. If y'all were to register, someone different right now, it would come across Auction Monitor and I would refresh and I would see it. Real time, any updates that are made on the buyers themselves or any new buyers that are made on the online site are going to come across, and you can see those when you refresh. It's really important what I'm saying, because what you'll find is you have to think, I have an active site where people can go in and register themselves, and I can register them through the online site. You don't want to enter buyers or modify buyers in ShoWorks, because anything that is done in the auction site is going to override what's happening in ShoWorks, just the way that Auction Monitor works right now. At the same time, I don't know if anyone went in and, put an add-on. Oh, it looks like GHR put $50 on Audrey Brighton. So similarly, those add-ons that are getting placed by you right now, I'm able to pull up and see those against my buyers and against that seller against that exhibitor and against that entry, against that invoice, as an add-on appearing there. Why is this important and what does it do for you? If you have a live sale taking place and GHR walks up to the cashier to check out like they've always done, and they say, well, I submitted some add-ons online while I was sitting there, you know, after bidding, what will happen is when you go to finalize the billing, you will, if you've entered the amount that they purchased at auction there, then their entire bill will show you the whole balance. And when you go to print their buyer activity, then you're going to actually see all of it listed. In the same fashion, if they had gone through and submitted a payment online, which is completely possible, then that payment would have shown up here as well and appeared as a credit on that. Just really exciting to be able to offer that this year. That is the basics of what is involved in getting add-ons online. By that point, what you've done is you have updated your entries, designated them as online add-ons only. You've set your sale order, you've pushed them. Excuse me. You've pushed them onto the auction site. Everyone's gone in, they have registered, they have placed their bids or placed their add-ons. It's come back over into ShoWorks immediately and you're good to go. So the next thing I'm going to talk about, actually, I have one other item that is a tip that I'm going to put up here for y'all to see, because this is where this question usually comes about. I indicated that you need to have your sale order as well as your sales invoices created in order to get add-ons online. And this is where I get the question, does that mean I cannot open my add-ons before the sale? That's not true. You can open your add-ons as early as you like. However, what you cannot do is once you have provisioned to the auction site and buyer activity has begun, then you do not want to go into your ShoWorks and delete those invoices. If a transaction has been added to them in the auction site, then that transaction needs an invoice to come back to. What you can do is create an arbitrary sale order and invoices, maybe alphabetically, just to throw an idea out there. And they will, you can push those all to the site, let everyone know there's no preference. It's just it's alphabetical, go find your exhibitors and place your add-ons. Then when it comes time for your final sale order, you can renumber your lots. I showed how we renumbered lots really quickly earlier when I had a few of my lots that were out of order. You use that renumber tool to renumber the lots. If you need to go in and manually renumber lots, you can do that. It's very simple. If you're in your sale and you needed to renumber some lots, then you can highlight them, edit multiple records, and change them to the next available number. If you needed to switch them, then you know there's a little dance you have to do to make sure that that you're assigning them a number that's not already taken up by someone else. So this is where you do that. Then you go through the process, review your invoice numbers. Are they the way that you want them to appear online? And then you would go to the cloud, provision the auction, and that will move the order of all of those lots online, and it will modify the invoice numbers. The next item on options for implementation is in-person online buyer registration. It can be pre-registration online before you even have people show up to your show and sell, or it could be online right there. What this does is you can post one URL to locate your auction and register. You can open pre-registration prior to your show and sell, register in-person buyers online with a QR code. They can do it themselves. And then as we witnessed, those buyers are syncing into your ShoWorks. It is to be noted for anyone familiar with buyer pre-registration in the FairWire site. The difference is that at this point in time, in ShoWorks auction site, the buyers cannot log in and manage their account to change their information. They do need to contact an administrator for that. And buyers cannot access final billing statements in the auction site if you were to want to push that final billing there. That would still be done in the FairWire site. So there's ways to dance around it. But one of the ideas is that you're communicating one URL out to your buyers so they're not going to a bunch of different places before they have to. Buyer numbers, I do want to touch on that. At the time of your first provision, buyer numbers on your existing buyer list will be brought directly over into the auction site. At the time of any additional provisions, if there's a buyer number conflict, provision history will give those warnings as I showed you. You'll follow the instructions to fix it. In both systems, buyer numbers are assigned to the next available number, and buyer numbers can manually be changed to a number that's not being used. Here is a tip. If you're unsure of whether y'all can keep your hands off of ShoWorks buyers and you just know that you're going to end up in ShoWorks 2020 doing a few updates on your buyers, go ahead and create a buyer in the auction site or in ShoWorks before you even provision the first time, but create a buyer with a higher number that will be used for ShoWorks Auction Online registrants. This allows for staff that could be utilizing your ShoWorks 2020 for buyer registration at the same time. They could be working, they didn't have to change what they were doing last year. They could be adding buyers and they could be utilizing that lower window of numbers, while online there's the higher window of numbers being used. This will do wonders for avoiding conflicts between your two systems. The next thing I'm going to show is images and videos, AuctionCast, and sponsors, and how they can be used. Everything that I'm showing for options for implementation is in addition to add-ons only, if you were to put them on. So all of these are choices that y'all can choose to implement or not. Right here is an example of AuctionCast Lite. It is basically bringing in all of the entry information, the invoice number, as well as the division and photos associated with those entries. And an individual is advancing this on big screens around your live sale, should you choose. But it's basically a streaming of what is going on. We recognized that you have done so much work and we wanted a beautiful way for you to be able to present that. Quite a few of you produce a PowerPoint that runs at the same time as your sale. And this can take the place of that, and you get it if you're doing auction, if you're utilizing the auction site for add-ons only. There is a beefier version for AuctionCast that includes buyer information. If you choose to utilize the site for clerking your sale itself, I'll be talking about that in a few weeks. But this is available to you, and what it requires is an individual to sit there and advance it just like you would a PowerPoint. On the top right-hand side, you're going to see the logo that will appear. That would be your fair logo, or you can embed your Zoom feed directly into this. That might come in handy if you're trying to show this in another barn or near the concession stands or somewhere else around the fair, people would be able to keep up. The pictures, there's up to 3 photos and a video are allowed to be loaded. Those are loaded either at the time of online entries, or admin staff can go through and add those images and videos after the fact, but you are loading that in Fair Vault via the online entries administration boards, or the individuals logging in themselves. What you saw was the listing of who's on deck, and once everybody's all sold out, it's all sold out. On the bottom left-hand side, you can see where there is a sponsor. My sponsor logo is very dark down here at the bottom, ShoWorks 2020, but you have the ability to put ShoWorks sponsors, and I will show you where to do that in a moment. And then you have announcements that are running off across the bottom. AuctionCast, things to consider if you do want to put it in place. What screens will you use? Will you be using Zoom? Who will advance the lots during the sale? And then designate a time to test the display. That's usually there's someone on your board or someone on your staff that loves to deal with that hardware and audio-visual type of problems. And so they can take care of that, and you'll have the link available to you directly from the auction admin. Sponsors, they can appear due to a ton of different ways. Division sponsors themselves are set up, I'll show you right here. They're set up within ShoWorks with the sponsor name, the sponsor website, and sponsor banner URL. We have very specific instructions on how to create those banners available for you. This is the same online options that feeds your online entries. Therefore, if you have sponsors per division, you could be showcasing division sponsors on online entries. Every single exhibitor is going to log in and look at it there. And then it also gives some real estate on the online auction site. On the buyer site itself, you can see down low, below the exhibitors, there is the opportunity to enter text-only sponsors for lots and special placing sponsors that is text-only as well. So you can see that down here. That appears on the buyer site, but not on AuctionCast. The next thing I'm going to show, and I know I'm running up against time, is a little bit about immediate buyer payments. Immediate buyer payments is an option for you to implement. If you are logged in and you have placed an add-on, you can go up to the shopping cart. What you're going to see is any add-ons that have been placed by you, and it will show that you have processing fees to pay as well as the total amount due. Every single auction has the ability to enable this or not. And then you also, right now, what you do is you go in and you set up PayPal as your gateway, and then you're linking your PayPal account to the auction site in order for those monies that are being paid to be deposited directly into your account. This is a look at the immediate payment settings in the auction admin. You have a PayPal email and a merchant ID that would get entered. And then there is an opt-in as a merchant that is required for you to sync the auction site to PayPal. This is a different authentication than you might have for online entries. Just so you know, so you do have to do it in both places. You have the ability, if you wanted to pass on any type of fair fee percentage or commission type percentage onto the buyers, there's a spot where you can do that, and you can designate it for add-ons only. And then there is this option right here, and this is probably the most utilized option, where you can designate that the fair is going to cover any convenience fee associated with the fees PayPal charges, or if the buyer is going to cover those fees. I'll give you a hint. Most buyers don't think twice about paying that fee. If it is a high dollar amount that they're trying to process, they're doing it for the convenience and to add points as they build up for that trip to Hawaii. And they don't think twice. And if they do think twice, they're going to pause and they're probably going to come over to your office or they're going to mail a check in. Just because you enable immediate buyer payments does not mean they have to use it. So when you go to write your bills and have that and do your settlements, then you'll be able to see anyone that did not pay and you can bill them like you always have. We do get a lot of questions about whether or not we are going to be offering additional payment gateways, and stay tuned. We have high hopes that that will be soon, and we will be shouting that out in a campaign to everyone when that happens. In short, implementing add-ons online, here's a timeline of what you need to do. As soon as you're ready to open your online entries, that's when you can get started. You have your ShoWorks 2020 in place. You work on getting everything configured for your online session. When you request your online session, there is, I think the tick box still says virtual auction. That's us. It notifies us that you're interested. It does mean add-ons only as well. Currently, we send you a service agreement. And at the time that we send that service agreement, you're just telling us that you have an intention of utilizing the auction for your add-ons or, for a sale down the road. But it puts you on our calendar so that we can anticipate better how to serve you. There is an auction fair details form that will send you that asks for very specific dates of what you're doing. As soon as you want to, we can open your buyer pre-registration. Some people open it as early as 3 months ahead of time or 6 months ahead of time. Some wait till right before their sale. It's up to you. Whenever you do that, we will request the request time with you to set up your auction monitor, and we'll run a test just to make sure everything's on the up and up. Because we do have those system minimum requirements. They're not any different than ShoWorks 2020 itself, but we want to make sure that you're set up for success. Immediately, if you are going to put payments in place, set up PayPal Pro if you haven't already, run some test transactions. There's some communications in the immediate buyer payments KB article that Kaylee just posted. And we'll make sure everyone has that allows you or gives you the email address to email at PayPal and say, ShoWorks@paypal.com. We are the ABC Fair. We run our fair from July 10th to July 31st, and we expect there to be heavy financial transactions during that time. What this does is it lets PayPal know not to flag you because you all of a sudden had an increase in financial activity and transactional activity. Up to a week before you're doing your registrations, or a day before, you're gathering all of those registrations and buyer registrations, loading images and videos if you'd like to, and then we know that you're working right up to the end in order to prepare that data in ShoWorks for your sale. Whenever you have it, you can provision to the auction site if you haven't already opened up online prior to that. Configure your auction site and update your website with the auction URL. After that, you have everything feeding into your ShoWorks for you to wrap up your sale. At the end, I'm talking pretty quickly. I am going to send out this video to you. I'll probably also send a version of this deck as training. I have these references. These are all the links that Kaylee has been putting into the chat, but we'll make sure that they are summarized into a recap for you. A couple other references there. And then finally, this takes you directly to our auction site, fairsoftware.com/auction. You can scan the QR code and save it as your favorites. Join the knowledge base. That is what will get you access to all of these articles. Across the top right-hand corner, you can follow us on social media. We're trying to build that up just to be able to engage a bit more, let you know what sales we have going on currently, and you can see what other people are doing in our customer base. On there, you can also view the demo, view AuctionCast, and schedule a meeting for follow-up with us here. So it has been a joy. I apologize for running over. I don't see any open Q&A right now. And if I'm missing something, please let me know. I do see one question that came in over the chat, and I'll feel free to address that. Aaron asks, so with Auction Monitor, your buyers will pre-register in the auction site only and not in ShoWorks. That is the way it is intended to work. If you attempt to do buyer registration in multiple places, that is up to you to understand where you're registering, who, and how you're going to manage those buyer numbers. So quite often the recommendation is to do it in one place and let that feed over. So our recommendation would be to do it in the auction site. Additionally, there is some debate on whether or not online registration through the Fairwire site should be offered or not. That's up to your fair. The idea is that you would put it, only have to communicate with your buyers one interface. So to simplify it, that's the only reason we would suggest that you do it via your auction site. If they have a duplicate registration, they're not told that they actually have a registration. It's just not going to let them register the same exact name. That is where you would definitely be watching for that. And a lot of times if they register, they're going to be, if they were to register a second time, then they would be actually, sorry, I lost my quick train of thought. If they're registering for the second time, then they're usually going to bid under that one number. So, you know, you kind of have to juggle how much effort you want to go into managing that, because if I'm a buyer and I registered twice, I would expect 2 invoices, but I know everyone tries to reconcile that the best that they can. The one way that they can tell if you have preloaded a list and you want them to be able to determine if they're already in the database, if you push them to the login page, then when they go to the arrow, they can search for their names in the list and see if they appear. It's a fairly smart search. So when you're searching ranch, I'm going to get every single ranch that's up there, every combination of those letters. So they can look and see if they already exist. In parentheses next to it is their buyer number. So if they were to select themselves and they don't have their security code, they can click request security code and it's going to text the number on file. If they don't receive that text, that's when you might have a registration note that says contact the fair office, because as a fair office, you can look in the auction admin at the buyer list and it has their code available for you to be able to share it with someone. So thank you for that question. We do get quite a few questions in the buyer registration space, and I encourage everyone to think about how you do buyer registration, what's going to be easiest, but the intent is that this would replace some of the ways you've been doing it in the past in order to make it much easier on the administration side from the back end. So with there being no other questions, this concludes our add-ons only configuration webinar and training. I appreciate each of you for coming out today. It's great to see so many of you here. Reach out to us, info or support at showworkscloud.com. If you have any questions, if you do want follow-up after this, feel free to throw it into the chat or email us as well. We look forward to working with each of you this fair season. Thank you.